right, good morning, class. Today we're going to learn about the causes of the Civil War. So, the Civil War is a war in our country between the North and the South of the United States. Um, this war comes after a history of some economic and racial tensions in our country. As you know, during the time of the Civil War, slavery was going on. And in the North, there were industries and factories getting started. And in the South, it was farming and plantations of slaves. So we're going to learn why the Civil War started today, and you guys are going to do an activity related to it. All right, here we go. So, Chapter 12, Causes of the Civil War. So, in the South, the Southern economy was agricultural or mostly based on farming, and these farms were ran by plantation owners, and slaves would give free labor on uh, these farms. Large cotton plantations had many slaves, while smaller farms were worked by fewer slaves and Southern farmers. So it's important to remember we learned about slavery earlier in the year, but by the 1800s, slavery had really, really taken off, and there were lots and lots of slaves in the South. African Americans worked for no pay. The conditions were very harsh. They were abused mentally and physically, and this was a very, very difficult time uh, for African American people. But these plantation owners made a huge profit off of the labor of slaves. And so the whole economy in the South was really built on the backs of slaves. As they worked in the fields and as they brought in the goods, the plantation owners would make a profit off of this. Now, the North was different, okay? In the North, it was growing in industrialization. And so in the North, you started to see cities grow, okay? Cities were growing and factories were being built throughout the region. People made textiles, shoes, tools, and other goods. By 1860, fewer than half of the people in the North were farmers. And so you're going to see a shift. I mean, even if you think about it now, in the North, we have a lot of big cities that are booming. And in the South, there are still a lot more rural areas. And so you're going to see a contrast between the North and South. Now, in the North, slavery was also illegal, whereas in the South, it was allowed. And so you have that tension going on as well. So, the different economies in the North and South led to disagreements between the regions about tariffs. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. So, Congress made high tariffs on goods made outside of the country, and many foreign purchase items were very, very expensive. Congress used tariffs to help American manufacturing, and tariffs were good for the North but did not help the South because there was less industry. So this ended up resulting in Southerners having to pay high prices for the goods they wanted, and they blamed tariffs on Northerners. So now we have the tension of the economy. In the South, you have slavery. In the North, you have industries. And then there's this tariff that is creating some tension as well. Southerners are angry um, about this particular tariff. Now, John Calhoun of South Carolina believed the Constitution did not have the power to create tariffs. He believed that state rights protected them from things like tariffs. So states' rights says that states, not the federal government, should make decisions involving the states. Uh, the North and South also argued over issues concerning uh, slavery and tariffs, and sectionalism is loyalty to one part of the country. The North eventually became the Union, while the South became the Confederacy or the Confederates. And so, usually, the Confederate flag is deemed as offensive because it relates to slavery and to the racist mentality of the South. But I have them pictured here because they're going to be important as we look at the Civil War over the next 2 weeks. You see at the top the flag of the Union, okay? There are some variations of that one, and then the flag of the Confederacy. So it's important to know that even though we were technically called the United States of America, our country was divided on these issues of tariffs, on state rights, on the North, the South, slavery. And all of these things are going to eventually lead to war between the North and the South in our country. And so it's important to know that at this time we were divided. Um, and I think it's very interesting. I always teach the Civil War at the end of the year, and I was a bit hesitant to teach it concerning some of the issues that we have going on currently in our country. But I think that it's so important. I told you guys at the beginning of the year that we always look at the past to see how it has influenced the present. And so, by looking at the Civil War, we're going to learn about some of these tensions that started in our country during this time. And then, I want you guys to be aware of the news. Let's think about, some of the things that are going on. There is racial tension. There are things being said on the news. There are people protesting, and lots of things are happening. And so it's important that as we're living in this world, to keep an eye and an ear out for what's going on. And of course, you will begin to formulate and develop your own opinion about what's going on. But I think it is important to look at the past and to see if there are any parallels between what's going on now and what was going on during the time of the Civil War. Okay, so finally, here's an exit slip. Hopefully, you were taking notes throughout the presentation, but I would like you to answer these questions in your notes. Okay, you don't have to do number 4 because I'm not able to show you the video. But number 1 is describe the economy of the North. Number 2, describe the economy of the South. And number 3 is why were tariffs an issue for the South. Okay, class, those are the questions on your exit slip. You will put those in your notes. You do not have to submit the exit slip to me, but you will need them for the next 2 weeks as we study this. I'm also uploading a worksheet for today that you need to complete. Have a wonderful Tuesday.